Greetings, dear viewers, and a heartfelt welcome to The Hidden File, your sanctuary for uncovering the darkest true crime mysteries where we peel back the layers of deception to reveal the chilling truths beneath. I'm your host, and today we're stepping into a labyrinth so cunningly crafted, so brilliantly executed, it'll make you question the minds behind every promise, every smile. Picture a criminal genius whose intellect could orchestrate a symphony of murders without ever touching a weapon, a mastermind who turned a lonely soul into a deadly instrument, all while hiding behind a digital mask. In January 2024, the serene city of Jilin, Inner Mongolia, was shattered by a series of killings that gripped China with terror. A brain so sharp it outwitted seasoned detectives, a phantom who fueled a bloodbath with lies, and a motive so twisted it defies comprehension. Who was the architect of this carnage? How could one mind bend others to its will, leaving a trail of broken lives? Grab a seat, smash that subscribe button, and ring the bell, because this tale of betrayal and brilliance will keep you riveted until the final twist. Welcome to The Hidden File. We begin in Jiaji, a small town nestled in the vast, windswept plains of Inner Mongolia, where the winter sun hangs low, casting long shadows across snow-dusted streets. Life here is quiet, intimate, the kind of place where neighbors share steaming pots of noodle soup and know each other's joys and sorrows. But on January 10th, 2024, at 4:00 p.m., that tranquility was shattered by a desperate call to the Jilin Police Department. Zhang Yutai, his voice quaking with panic, gasped into the receiver. "My sister Ping, she's been murdered in her home. Please come now." Within 10 minutes, police swarmed a modest brick house, its windows glowing faintly against the dusk, the air thick with the weight of tragedy. Outside, villagers gathered, their faces pale, their whispers a chorus of dread, as if death itself lingered in the cold. Inside, officers confronted a scene of unimaginable horror. Ping, a 50-year-old mother, lay sprawled across her bedroom floor, her body a canvas of violence, countless stab wounds crisscrossing her chest, arms, and neck, each gash a testament to a frenzied, merciless attack. Blood soaked the sheets, splattered the walls, and pooled beneath her, a crimson tide that glistened in the dim light. Each drop a silent scream of her final moments. The room was chaos, drawers yanked open, clothes strewn across the floor. A jewelry box upended, its contents scattered like fallen stars, as if someone had torn through her belongings in a desperate search. In the living room, police found a men's jacket and a pair of sneakers, both caked in fresh blood, left brazenly in the open, a clue so bold it felt like a taunt. The coroner, her hands steady despite the grim task, estimated Ping's death at 3:00 p.m., the warmth of her skin and the wet blood confirming the killer struck mere hours ago. Most chillingly, the doors and windows bore no signs of forced entry, no scratches on the locks, no shattered glass, no pry marks. Ping had opened her door to her killer, someone she trusted with her life, someone who betrayed that trust with a blade. Who was Ping, this woman whose death tore a hole through Jiaji's heart? She was the soul of her family, a woman whose warmth radiated like a hearth in winter, binding them together through love and sacrifice. Married to Wang Ji, a 55-year-old construction contractor known for his tenacity and ambition, she raised two children who were the pride of her life. Wang Ting, a 26-year-old tech worker with a radiant smile and a sharp mind, and Wang Jing, a 22-year-old engineering student whose quiet demeanor hid a fierce devotion to his family. Neighbors spoke of their generosity, recalling how Ping would deliver steaming trays of dumplings to struggling families or spend hours helping children with their homework in the community center. Wang Ji, despite his gruff exterior, was known to hire local laborers for his construction projects, even when profits were slim, a gesture that earned him loyalty in Jiji. Their home was a haven of laughter filled with the aroma of Ping's cooking, spicy beef noodles, her signature dish, and the chatter of family gatherings where stories flowed as freely as tea. Zhang Yutai, Ping's younger brother, lived just 100 meters away, their homes linked by a well-worn path. They walked daily, sharing memories of their childhood or plans for the future. It was Wang Jing, unable to reach his mother, a woman who called her children at the slightest hint of trouble, who grew anxious when her phone went unanswered, a rarity that sent a chill through him. He called his uncle, asking him to check on her, a decision that led to the horrific discovery that would haunt them all. When Wang Ting and Wang Jing arrived at the scene, Their grief was a tidal wave, their screams piercing the cold air as they tried to reach their mother's body, only to be held back by officers, their hands gripping each other in desperation. Wang Ting's boyfriend Zhang Lin stood beside them, his face etched with sorrow that seemed to mirror their pain. His arms around Wang Ting as she sobbed, his presence a quiet anchor in the storm. Zhang Yutai, still reeling from the sight of his sister's body, told police Shui Ping had no enemies. Her life was her family, her days spent tending the small garden behind their home where she grew chili peppers and green onions or planning meals that brought everyone together. Could Wang Ji's business, a cutthroat world of bidding wars and rival contractors, have drawn a vengeful enemy, someone willing to kill to settle a score? The police needed answers, and what they uncovered would plunge them into a maze of deception that would test their resolve. Wang Ting's revelation was a bombshell that turned the case into a high-stakes thriller, a puzzle with stakes as high as life itself. That morning at 11:00 a.m., her phone buzzed with a text from a man named Zhang Ping, a name she vaguely recalled from a family dinner months earlier, a man introduced as a friend of Zhang Lin. The message was cryptic, almost playful, a single line that sent a shiver down her spine. The game has just begun. 20 minutes later, another text arrived, cold and menacing, its words cutting like a knife. Your father Wang Ji is in my hands. Prepare 1 million yuan or he dies. It included a bank account number and a rendezvous point at Jaku Park, a sprawling green space on the city's edge, its willow trees swaying in the winter breeze, its paths winding through quiet corners where secrets could hide. Wang Ting's heart pounded as she dialed her father's number, but it rang unanswered, each tone fueling her panic, her fingers trembling as she tried again and again. Frantic, she and Wang Jing sped home their car, weaving through Jilin narrow streets, their minds racing with fear. They found only their mother and brother at the house, the air heavy with unease. Wang Ji had left at dawn to meet a business partner, a routine he'd followed for years, his briefcase stuffed with blueprints for a new highway project, his mind focused on the next big contract. More texts flooded in, each escalating the nightmare, each word tightening the knot in Wang Ting's chest. Zhang Ping claimed he'd also kidnapped Wang Ji's cousin Shui Ru and her husband Wang Jun, demanding a larger ransom, his threats growing bolder, more urgent. He sent a bank account number shockingly registered in his own name, a detail that baffled Wang Ting, even in her panic, and a new location, another park across town, a place less traveled, shrouded in shadows. The siblings rushed to Jaku Park, their eyes scanning the crowds, their hearts racing as they searched for their father, for the kidnapper, for any sign of hope. But Zhang Ping was a ghost invisible in the daylight. Instead, he texted again, his words taunting, almost gleeful, as if he relished their fear, as if their desperation was part of his plan. Something was deeply wrong, a truth that gnawed at Wang Ting's instincts. Shui Ping, who would have called a dozen times in such a crisis, bombarding her children with questions, reassurances, and demands to stay safe, was silent. Her phone dead, her absence a void that screamed danger. Wang Jing tried her number, his dread growing with each unanswered ring, his voice shaking as he dialed again. He called his uncle. His words rushed. Please check on Mom, something's not right. A decision that would lead to the gruesome discovery that would change their lives forever. Was this a botched extortion scheme, a desperate criminal's gamble for quick cash, or a meticulously crafted trap designed to deceive, to distract, to destroy? The police zeroed in on Zhang Ping, the man behind the text, their instincts screaming that he was more than a common criminal, his actions hinting at a mind playing a dangerous game. His profile was a paradox, a riddle wrapped in contradiction that set off alarm bells. Far from the traffic police officer he'd claimed to be when introduced to the Wang family by Zhang Lin, he was a drifter, a man with no fixed address, no steady job, no roots to tether him to the world, living on the fringes of Jilin underbelly. He survived on odd jobs, loading trucks, washing dishes in dingy restaurants, and fleeting connections, his life a patchwork of temporary shelters, and borrowed time, his possessions fitting into a single tattered backpack. Surveillance footage captured him near Shu Ping's home at 3:00 p.m., his gait steady, his face, betraying no hint of the violence he'd just unleashed, his calm demeanor, a stark contrast to the chaos he'd left behind. The bloody jacket and sneakers matched his build, but their placement in the living room, so brazenly visible, felt like either a rookie mistake or a deliberate taunt. A breadcrumb meant to mislead to draw the police's focus. The texts were even more baffling, a puzzle that deepened the mystery. Sent from a SIM card registered in his name, linked to his personal bank account, they were a neon sign pointing directly to him, a trail so obvious it seemed impossible for a killer to be so careless. No criminal would be so reckless unless they were playing a deeper, more sinister game, one where the rules were known only to them. Police launched a citywide manhunt, their boots pounding the icy streets of Jilin, their eyes glued to grainy surveillance feeds, their radios crackling with updates. They checked hotels, train stations, and bus depots, interrogating clerks with Zhang Ping's photo scanning passenger lists for aliases, chasing every lead no matter how faint. On January 4th, a breakthrough pierced the fog of the investigation. Zhang Ping was registered at a local hotel again under his own name, as if daring the police to find him, as if he wanted to be seen. But when they kicked down the door, their flashlights cutting through the dim room, they didn't find Zhang Ping. They found Wang Jinshuiru's husband, his body cold on the bed, his skull shattered by a single devastating blow, the blood dried into a dark halo around his head, the air heavy with the stench of death. The coroner estimated his death at 9:00 a.m. on January 2nd, hours before Zhu Ping's murder, the timing a chilling clue that this was no random spree. The horror deepened, each discovery peeling back another layer of terror, each body a piece of a grim puzzle. At another hotel just 50 meters away, police found Shui Ru, her body crumpled on the floor, purple marks around her neck revealing a slow, deliberate strangulation. Her eyes frozen in a silent scream, her hands still curled as if reaching for life. Her death was pegged at 10:00 a.m. on January 2nd, a mere hour after her husband's, the proximity of the crime suggesting a killer, moving with ruthless efficiency. Both rooms were rented by Zhang Ping, who paid in cash for multiple days and left strict instructions. No disturbances, no housekeeping, no questions. The hotel staff, trained to respect guest privacy, had no inkling of the carnage within their logs, showing only a quiet guest who kept to himself, his face unremarkable, his presence forgettable. 3 murders in a single day, all tied to one man, each executed with chilling precision, each scene staged to tell a story. But where was Wang Ji, the supposed first victim of this alleged kidnapping? The man whose absence loomed over the case like a specter. The city of Jilin was gripped by panic rumors of a serial killer, spreading like wildfire through markets, tea houses, and whispered conversations behind locked doors. Families bolted their homes, children were kept indoors, and the police faced a tidal wave of pressure to stop the bloodshed, their every move scrutinized by a terrified public. Every clue pointed to Zhang Ping, but his brazen use of his real identity, his name on hotel registers, his bank account, in the text suggested a mind far sharper than the average criminal. A mind that thrived on outsmarting its pursuers, playing a game where lives were the stakes, where the board was the city itself. The hunt for Zhang Ping escalated into a national operation, a testament to the police's unrelenting resolve to end his reign of terror, a pursuit that would test their endurance, their ingenuity, and their faith in justice. By January 10th, a tip placed him in Beijing, worst 200 kilometers away, a sprawling metropolis, where a fugitive could vanish into the neon-lit crowds, where the pulse of the city could swallow a man whole. A taxi driver reported picking up a man matching his description, his passenger silent, his eyes fixed on the horizon as if searching for salvation. Surveillance footage confirmed it. Zhang Ping, his face gaunt, his shoulders slumped, a man on the run, but not yet broken. Inner Mongolia police joined forces with Beijing and Hebei authorities, launching a manhunt that spanned 3 provinces, a colossal effort that demanded coordination across jurisdictions, each team driven by the faces of the victims, their names etched into every report. They suspected he was heading for the border, perhaps aiming for Russia or Mongolia, where he could slip into obscurity, a ghost in a foreign land, his crimes buried in the chaos of his escape. For months, they tracked him through Beijing's labyrinthine streets, sifting through thousands of camera feeds, each frame a potential clue, each blur a possible lead. They interviewed informants, street vendors, hotel clerks, underground fixers, who might have seen a man with Zhang Ping's hollow eyes. They staked out transit hubs, train stations, packed with weary travelers, airports humming with security-seedy motels where fugitives often hide knowing one misstep could let him slip away. The operation was a masterclass in persistence with officers working around the clock, their coffee cups piling up their families a distant memory, their resolve fueled by the knowledge that every hour brought them closer to justice or further from it. On April 16th at 2:00 a.m., their efforts bore fruit, a moment of triumph in the darkness. At a toll booth on a quiet highway, cameras caught Zhang Ping asleep in a taxi, his head slumped against the window, his breath fogging the glass, his body finally yielding to exhaustion. Police swarmed the vehicle, their flashlights cutting through the night, their voices sharp as they ordered the driver to stand down. They cuffed Zhang Ping without a struggle, his hands limp, his eyes meeting theirs, with a calm that was almost serene, as if he'd been waiting for this moment, as if the chase had drained the fight from him. A tip from Zhonglin Wang Ting's boyfriend had warned that Zhang Ping was armed with a weapon, a detail that raised eyebrows, when no gun, no knife, not even a makeshift blade was found. This discrepancy was the first crack in a facade that would soon shatter, a clue that the police were only beginning to unravel the true scope of the horror, a truth that would redefine the case. Back in Inner Mongolia, Zhang Ping's confession was a chilling blend of precision and delusion, revealing a mind capable of meticulous execution, but not the brilliance of a true mastermind. He admitted to killing Shui Ping Wang, Jun Shui Ru, and Wang Ji, his words delivered with a mechanical clarity as if reciting a script he'd rehearsed in his mind. He claimed to have doused Wang Ji's body with gasoline and incinerated it in a remote field, the flames consuming flesh and bone, the ashes scattered by the relentless wind, leaving no trace for the police to find. His motive was as bizarre as it was heartbreaking, a story that seemed plucked from a tragic novel, revenge for his girlfriend Xiaolan, a Chinese-American woman he'd met online 2 years earlier through a chat app. Her profile picture, a radiant smile that captivated him, her messages a lifeline in his lonely world. Xiaolan, he said, had inherited a vast fortune from her parents, a wealth that made her a target for predators. He believed the Wang family, Wang Ji, Wang Jun, Shui Ru, and Shui Ping, was scheming to steal it through legal maneuvers, intimidation, and ultimately murder. When she returned to China on January 30th and vanished, her WeChat account going dark, her voice silenced, Zhang Ping was convinced they'd kidnapped and killed her to secure her fortune, their greed a motive for her disappearance. His plan was a study in ruthless efficiency, showcasing a cunning that belied his aimless, drifting life, a precision that suggested he was more than the lost soul he appeared to be. On January 2nd at 7:00 a.m., he lured Wang Ji to a desolate field, posing as a business partner, inspecting a construction site for a new highway, a lie that played on Wang Ji's ambition. There he stabbed him repeatedly, the blade flashing in the pale morning light, each thrust fueled by a misguided sense of justice, his hands steady despite the horror. He doused the body with gasoline, the flames roaring as they consumed every trace, the smoke rising into the dawn sky. At 8:00 a.m., he tricked Wang Jun into a hotel meeting, claiming to discuss the same project, a deception that leveraged Wang Jun's trust in their shared family ties. As Wang Jun stepped inside, Zhang Ping struck a single blow to the head with a heavy pipe, felling him instantly, his body crumpling to the carpet, his life extinguished in a moment. Using Wang Jun's phone, he texted Shui Ru, summoning her to another hotel with a promise of urgent news about her husband, a message that tugged at her heart. When she arrived, her face etched with worry, he strangled her, his hands tightening around her neck until her struggles ceased, her body going limp in the silent room, her breath stolen forever. Finally, he targeted Shui Ping, a woman he knew from past visits with Wang Ji, her face familiar, her trust a vulnerability he could exploit. He sent fake kidnapping texts to Wang Ting and Wang Jing, luring them to Jeku Park with promises of their father's release, each message a lie designed to clear the house. With the family distracted, he knocked on Shui Ping's door, and she, recognizing him, let him in without hesitation, her smile a welcome that sealed her fate. He stabbed her without warning, the blade plunging into her chest, her screams silenced before they could begin, her body collapsing in a heap. He left his bloody jacket and sneakers at the scene, a calculated move to confuse police, a clue meant to point to him and him alone. He fled to Beijing, driven by a desperate hope to find Xiaolan, to save the woman he loved, a quest that now seemed more fantasy than reality, a dream that had led him to slaughter. Zhang Ping's confession revealed a mind capable of intricate planning, his actions methodical, his timing precise. Each murder executed with a cold efficiency that spoke of careful preparation. But the police sensed he was no mastermind, his words lacking the spark of true genius, his insistence on acting alone, feeling rehearsed as if he were shielding a hidden figure, a puppet reciting lines fed by a greater intellect. And Xiaolan Shi was a phantom, a name without a face, a story without substance, a void at the heart of the case. No passport records showed her entering China. No social media accounts bore her name. No flight manifests listed her arrival. No trace of her existed beyond Zhang Ping's desperate belief. Wang Ting and Wang Jing, their eyes red from endless tears, swore they'd never heard of her. Their confusion raw, their shock unfeigned, their voices breaking as they insisted their family had no connection to such a woman. The police began to suspect Xiaolan was a fiction, a carefully crafted lie, a key to unlocking the true genius behind the murders. A mind far sharper than Zhang Ping's, a mind that had orchestrated this bloodbath from the shadows. Their focus shifted to Zhanglin Wangting's boyfriend, whose behavior had raised red flags from the moment he stepped onto the crime scene, his presence a constant undercurrent of unease. Zhang Lin had introduced Zhang Ping to the Wang family, presenting him as a traffic police officer with connections to powerful officials, a claim that gave him credibility in their eyes. He was overly invested in the investigation, a constant presence at police briefings, hovering at crime scenes. His questions probing his curiosity, bordering on obsession, as if he were tracking the police's every move. His tip about Zhang Ping's non-existent weapon was a critical misstep, a lie that drew scrutiny, a crack in his carefully constructed facade. His grief at Shui Ping's murder scene seemed performative, a theatrical display that outshone the raw, guttural pain of her children, as if he were auditioning for a role in a tragedy he'd written himself. When police dug deeper, they found no record of Zhang Lin at the traffic police, no trace of his supposed career, no evidence he was anything other than a fraud. He'd lied to Wang Ting, to her family, to everyone around him, crafting a persona as a powerful official, with a network of influence, a facade so convincing it had fooled even those closest to him, a lie that had woven him into the fabric of their lives. Zhang Lin's interrogation was a battle of wits, a clash between a brilliant mind and the police's unyielding resolve, a duel played out in a stark room under fluorescent lights. At first he deflected, weaving tales of innocence with a charm that had disarmed so many. His smile practiced, his words measured each sentence, a carefully placed stone in a wall of lies. But under relentless questioning, his facade crumbled, his lies unraveling like a poorly stitched seam, his composure cracking under the weight of evidence. He confessed to being the architect of the murders, a criminal genius whose high IQ enabled him to orchestrate a bloodbath without ever lifting a weapon, a mastermind who turned Zhang Ping into a deadly pawn, a weapon forged from trust and betrayal. The truth was staggering, a revelation that chilled the interrogators to their core, a story that redefined the case and exposed the terrifying power of a brilliant mind turned to evil. Xiaolan was a fabrication, a WeChat persona he created to manipulate Zhang Ping, a lonely man desperate for love, whose heart was an open wound Zhang Lin exploited with surgical precision. For 2 years, Zhang Lin catfished his friend, crafting a persona so convincing it consumed Zhang Ping's every thought, a digital siren whose messages were a lifeline in his desolate world. He hired a woman to pose as Xiaolan, in voice calls her soft voice, weaving a spell that deepened the illusion, her words of affection binding Zhang Ping to a phantom. Each call a thread in the web Zhang Lin spun. Zhang Lin's real scheme was a financial con of breathtaking audacity, a scam that leveraged his intellect to prey on ambition, trust, and the promise of wealth. He'd convinced Wangji Wangjun in Shuiru to invest 1.7 million yuan in a non-existent highway project, promising profits that would transform their lives, a golden ticket to a future of security and status. Posing as a traffic police insider with connections to government officials, he used Zhang Ping dressed up as a high-ranking official in borrowed suits to lend credibility to the scam. Their meeting staged with the precision of a theater production, each handshake a step closer to the trap. The investors, dazzled by visions of skyscrapers, toll roads, and government contracts, handed over the money, unaware it was funding Zhang Lin's lavish lifestyle, luxury cars that gleamed in Beijing's underground garages, designer clothes that draped his frame like a second skin, and nights of excess in exclusive clubs where champagne flowed like water and the world bent to his whims. When the funds dried up and the investors grew suspicious, their questions sharper with each unanswered call, their demands for proof more insistent, Zhang Lin faced exposure. Prison was certain if his fraud was uncovered. His carefully crafted persona shattered his dreams of wealth and power, reduced to ash. So he devised a plan of chilling brilliance, eliminate everyone who knew the truth, using Zhang Ping as his weapon, and scapegoat a pawn who would take the fall, while Zhang Lin vanished into the shadows, his hands clean, his name untainted. Zhang Lin's genius was in his mastery of human psychology, a high IQ that allowed him to anticipate every move, every reaction, every flaw in the human spirit, turning trust into a weapon more deadly than any blade. He knew Zhang Ping's weaknesses, his isolation, his yearning for connection, his blind loyalty to a love he'd never seen, and exploited them with the precision of a surgeon wielding a scalpel. Using the Shaolin persona, he spun a tale of betrayal. Her family's fortune was being targeted by the Wang family, who would stop at nothing legal schemes, threats, even murder to claim it. He crafted messages that tugged at Zhang Ping's heart, painting Xiaolan as a damsel in distress, a woman whose life depended on his courage, his devotion. When he made Xiaolan disappear, her WeChat account going dark, her voice silenced, he convinced Zhang Ping she'd been kidnapped, igniting a rage that burned through reason, transforming a lonely drifter into a vengeful killer, a man willing to kill for a love that never existed. Zhang Lin orchestrated every detail, his mind a chessboard, where every piece moved according to his design, each action a calculated step in a game only he understood. He crafted the fake kidnapping text that threw police off the scent, each message timed to create chaos and confusion, to paint a picture of a desperate criminal rather than a calculated killer. He chose the murder locations, isolated hotels, a remote field for their anonymity, ensuring no witnesses, no cameras, no traces to lead back to him. He lent Zhang Ping his car to buy gasoline, ensuring Wang Ji's body would vanish in flames. The evidence reduced to ash, the field left barren. The bloodied clothes left at Xu Ping's home were his idea, a red herring to focus suspicion on Zhang Ping, a clue so obvious it was meant to mislead, to keep the police chasing the wrong man. His texts to Wang Ting were a stroke of genius, creating a kidnapping narrative that masked the murders as a ransom scheme, buying Zhang Ping time to flee, time to disappear into Beijing's sprawl. His final gambit was the weapons tip, a calculated lie to provoke a police shootout that would silence Zhang Ping forever, leaving Zhang Lin's hands clean, his name untainted, his escape assured. Zhang Lin's plan was a symphony of deception, each note played with the precision of a maestro, his intellect anticipating police procedures, exploiting digital vulnerabilities, and manipulating human trust with an ease that was almost supernatural. He used WeChat's anonymity to craft Shaolin burner phones to send texts, and Zhang Ping's loyalty to execute his vision, a plan so intricate it nearly fooled everyone, police victims, even his own accomplice. His high IQ allowed him to predict how police would react to Zhang Ping's obvious clues, how they'd follow the trail he laid, how they'd overlook the shadow behind the killer. He leveraged digital tools with the skill of a hacker, using encrypted apps to communicate, disposable SIM cards to send messages, and fake profiles to create a persona that felt real, a woman who lived only in Zhang Ping's heart. But he underestimated the police, a team of seasoned investigators whose tenacity matched his brilliance, whose refusal to accept the easy answers led them to the truth. They pieced together camera footage from Beijing's toll booths, phone records that traced Zhang Lin's calls to the hired voice actress, and the contradictions in his story, his false career, his probing questions, his theatrical grief, dismantling his perfect scheme with the patience of archaeologists uncovering a lost city, each fragment revealing the genius behind the horror. This case is a chilling portrait of a brilliant mind turned to evil, a warning of how intellect can become a weapon more deadly than any blade of force that can reshape reality itself. Zhang Lin's high IQ enabled him to craft a scheme so intricate it nearly outwitted an entire police force, a plan that leveraged psychology, technology, and human trust to devastating effect, a masterpiece of manipulation that left 4 people dead and a family shattered. Psychologically, he was a sociopath, his charm a mask for a remorseless core, his narcissism driving a need to control every player in his game, from Zhang Ping's heart to the Wang family's wallets, from the police's investigation to the narrative that would define his crimes. His ability to maintain multiple personas, doting boyfriend, fake official, puppet master, required cognitive agility that bordered on genius, a mind that could juggle lies without missing a beat, a chameleon who shifted identities with the ease of breathing. He anticipated police procedures with uncanny accuracy, knowing they'd focus on Zhang Ping's obvious clues, the bloodied clothes, the traceable texts, and overlook the shadow behind them, the mind that had planted them. He used digital tools with the skill of a master strategist, exploiting WeChat's anonymity to create Xiaolan burner phones, to send untraceable messages and fake profiles, to craft a persona that felt real, a woman who lived only in Zhang Ping's dreams, a ghost who drove him to murder. His manipulation of Zhang Ping was a masterclass in psychological warfare, turning a lonely man's dreams into a motive for slaughter, a feat that required not just intellect, but a profound understanding of human vulnerability, a knowledge of the heart's deepest desires and darkest fears. Zhang Ping, while cunning in his methodical killings, was no intellectual match, his actions precise but not brilliant, his planning a reflection of Zhang Lin's guidance rather than his own genius. His murders were timed with care. 7:00 a.m. for Wang Ji, 8:00 a.m. for Wang Jun, 10:00 a.m. for Sheru, 3:00 p.m. for Shui Ping, each location chosen for its isolation, each clue staged to mislead. But his blind trust in Xiaolan, his refusal to question her existence, even as the police closed in, revealed a gullible heart, not a brilliant mind. "I've avenged my girlfriend," he told police, his voice breaking, his eyes distant, still believing she was real. A victim of his own delusion, a pawn in Zhang Lin's game, a man whose love had been weaponized against him. The case lays bare the dangers of our digital age, where a single fake profile, a few well-crafted lies, and a brilliant mind can spark a bloodbath, where trust can be a trap, where the screen we stare into can hide a predator. It's a stark reminder that the people we connect with online, the voices we hear, the faces we imagine, may be illusions, their motives far deadlier than we can fathom their intellect, a weapon we cannot see until it's too late. In the Inner Mongolia, court justice was swift and uncompromising, a reckoning for the lives lost, the trust shattered, the families torn apart. Zhang Ping, who carried out the murders, was sentenced to death for killing 4 people. Wang Ji, Wang Jun, Shui Ru, and Shui Ping, his actions, the result of a manipulated mind, but no less heinous, his hands stained with blood that could never be washed away. Zhang Lin, the genius mastermind, also faced the death penalty, his intellect no shield against the law, his brilliance undone by the persistence of those he sought to deceive, his empire of lies crumbling under the weight of truth. For Wang Ting and Wang Jing, the loss was cataclysmic, a wound that bled through every moment, a pain that no verdict could heal. They buried their parents and cousins, their grief deepened by Zhang Lin's betrayal, a man who'd woven himself into their lives with promises of love, of a future together, of a wedding that would bind him to Wang Ting forever. His affection was a cruel facade, a lie to deepen his con, a betrayal that cut as deeply as the murders, leaving scars that time may never mend. A family destroyed not just by violence, but by the lies that preceded it, the trust that had been their undoing. Their pain is a haunting reminder of how far deception can wound, how a single lie spun by a brilliant mind can unravel everything we hold dear. What lessons can we take from this tragedy to protect ourselves in a world where brilliance can mask malice, where trust can be a trap? First, verify every online identity with relentless skepticism, as if your life depends on it, because it might. A charming profile can hide a predator, a genius like Zhang Lin, who wields lies like a scalpel, cutting through defenses with ease. Cross-check names, photos, and stories with real-world evidence. Search public records, reverse image search photos to see if they're stolen, insist on video calls to confirm who you're dealing with, and trust only what you can verify. Zhang Lin's fake Xiaolan fooled Zhang Ping for 2 years, a digital ghost that led to slaughter. A simple check could have saved lives. Second, guard your personal information like a fortress, a treasure no one can steal. Zhang Lin used intimate details about the Wang family's finances, relationships, and dreams to manipulate them, turning their trust into a weapon, their openness into a vulnerability. Share sparingly, especially with new contacts, and never reveal sensitive data bank accounts, family dynamics, personal aspirations without verification, without proof that the person is who they claim to be. Third, trust your instincts, that quiet voice that whispers when something feels off, when the pieces don't fit. Wang Ting dismissed Zhang Ping's cryptic text as a prank, a fleeting annoyance, and Wang Ji ignored red flags in Zhang Lin's too-good-to-be-true promises, mistakes that cost them everything that led to a bloodbath. If something feels wrong, don't brush it aside. Investigate. Ask questions, seek advice from trusted friends or professionals. Follow the unease until it leads to clarity. Fourth, demand transparency in financial dealings. No matter how charismatic the source, no matter how dazzling the promise. Wang Ji and his cousins handed over 1.7 million yuan without contracts, without proof, without due diligence, a mistake that fueled Zhang Lin's scheme that gave him the power to destroy. Always verify investments, demand written agreements, consult financial advisors, check credentials, and question any deal that seems too perfect, because perfection is often a lie. Fifth, embrace persistence, the kind that drove the police to chase Zhang Ping across China, to unravel Zhang Lin's lies through months of grueling work, to refuse the easy answers and seek the truth. If you suspect deceit in love, in money and trust, keep digging, keep questioning, keep pushing. Contact authorities, hire investigators, follow the evidence, seek online communities for support, or turn to experts who can help. The truth is worth the fight, and your vigilance could prevent a tragedy, could save a life, could stop a genius like Zhang Lin before they strike, before their brilliance becomes a blade. As we leave the desolate plains of Jilin Hayoti, where the wind carries whispers of the lives lost, the lies that destroyed them, the brilliance that betrayed them, we're left with a chilling question: how many other Zhang Lins are out there? Their brilliant minds crafting lies behind a screen, waiting for their next mark, their next victim, their next chance to turn trust into terror. At 2, the hidden file. We uncover these stories to arm you with knowledge, to illuminate the shadows where predators lurk, to give you the tools to protect yourself and those you love from the dangers that hide in plain sight. If this case gripped you, if it made your heart race or your mind reel, if it left you questioning the world around you, smash that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. What shocked you most about Zhang Lin's genius, his ability to turn trust into a weapon to weave lies that killed? Could you spot a manipulator in your own life? Someone whose charm hides a darker truth, whose words conceal a blade? Subscribe for more true crime tales that unravel the secrets others want. Buried stories that challenge us to see the world with clearer eyes, to guard our hearts and minds against those who would exploit them. Thank you for joining us on this harrowing journey, for trusting the hidden file, to guide you through the darkness, to shine a light on the truths that others would keep hidden. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay curious, and keep searching for the truth, because in a world of lies, the truth is our greatest weapon.